There's never a dull moment when you're a TriMet blogger like myself. I mean, they could conduct entire university courses on the culture and the rhetoric and the uh, the systems related to TriMet itself. It's just fascinating. It's just fascinating to watch in all of its glory. Let's say all of its foibles I mean, the foibles is what makes it great to watch, really. And I've never had a boring. You know, I've been doing this for years, and people say, "Get a life, get a life." But if they're over there watching like the Boston Red, I grew up with the Boston Red Sox. Okay, I come from there. They're bored of me. Okay, I don't want to watch the Boston. I watched them when I was in my teens, 20s, and 30s. I'm tired of them. I don't watch sports. But this stuff, this TriMet stuff, it just fascinates the hell out of me. I just never get bored because there's so much intrigue and so much going on. And so here we have this Lane Jensen, excuse me, we have this Lane Jensen incident, which has just fascinated me. I mean, nobody saw it coming. I sure as hell didn't see it coming. He didn't see it coming. Nobody did. And why didn't we see it coming? Because we didn't know about the telephone harassment law, which says all you got to do is call somebody a bunch of times and you can end up in jail. Nobody knew that existed until Lane is arrested. Okay, nobody knew it was there. It's kind of this hidden law that's there, ready to pounce on you. Uh, you know, I checked Washington State and I checked California, and they have no such law like this. They have very strictly defined actions that have to be taken before you get arrested like this. But here's Oregon, you know, Podunkville, Oregon. I hate to demean the state I've been living in for the last 20 years, but I keep finding examples of this backward thinking in the state of Oregon. It pretends it's very advanced and green, but there's so many backward things going on here. I mean, I grew up in Massachusetts, a usually progressive state. Spent 20 years in California, which is highly advanced citizens and highly advanced You're always hearing about politics, the state government of California and Here you hear what do you hear about state government here? Not a goddamn thing, because it basically doesn't exist, really. I mean, politics here in Oregon is so devolved that you really don't hear much about it at all. You hear about city stuff, but you don't hear much because it's all controlled by one group. There's no competing group here. There's no way to actually see what's going on because it's all, well, for lack of a better term, the Goldschmidt clan that runs everything here. Well, anyway, with this Lane Jensen incident, there's all kinds of questions swirling about this, and I have all of them too, of course. It's like Lane supposedly was told that he couldn't contact Roberta, and he remembered something about that, and I vaguely remembered something about that, and we were both trying to put together our heads and say, well, what was that? And we both of us don't really remember what that was about. I think it was because he was calling her, asking her a question about benefits or something, retirement benefits, and they told him, don't call Roberta anymore. I think that's what I think. I mean, there's no evidence the conversation took place, but whatever did take place, it was not in the context of, oh, by the way, Lane, if you ever do it again, you're going to be in violation of 1669.00, and you could end up going to jail. No, never was said, never was spoken. Nobody knew it. That's why Lane's in this position he's in now, because nobody knew it. That's why I say it was a setup. Now, the further issue is, can a public information officer actually claim harassment when a member of the public asks them a legitimate question, even if that question is sent to them over and over? What gives her the right to claim harassment? Harassment is supposed to be for people that are sending you dirty pictures, threatening you, or just generally bothering you. He was actually asking her questions around the scope of her job. What gives her the right to claim harassment in this case? I don't think they have that right. I think there's so many holes in this case that TriMet's going to be rudely surprised as this falls apart. But a lot of us are thinking, okay, maybe he's guilty of the letter. If not, he's not guilty of the spirit of the law. Maybe the letter of the law. I mean, laws are meant to be upheld in the spirit of the law. Like the harassment's meant to be somebody who's actually causing you to be fearful of your life. It's not meant to stop people that are asking legitimate questions. So a further discussion we've been having is, now, would an ordinary citizen actually be able to use the police to arrest somebody for something like this? Or is this just because of TriMet's power? Well, all of us know it's because of TriMet's power. But I conducted an experiment today. I called over to the Portland police, and I asked them, okay, theoretically, somebody's texting me over and over, how would I handle this? And their answer is surprising, and what you do see is a very excellent answer by the officer who answers me. He gives me the logical answer. Very well thought out. He knew. I was surprised he even knew about the law. Actually, I didn't think any, but he did know about the law. He told me how to handle it. And let me say this about police. I'm a very big critic of police, but I also, my second wife came from a family of police. Her dad was a cop. Her uncles were cops, all L.A. cops. Her brother was a cop. And I spent a lot of time hanging out with these people. And the cop culture, they hang out with each other. Cops hang out with cops. That's their whole. Not only is it their job, but it's their life. So I really got an inside look at the police culture, and a lot of what they deal with makes them the way they are. You have to understand that there are a lot of bad people out there. Okay, Lane Jensen doesn't count. Okay. Fare evaders. I'm talking about real criminals. And what happens, and I saw it myself when I went to these family get-togethers, was that there is an us versus them mentality that happens with the police, because it's them against the culture out there that's doing all the shit. And it does get brutal, and those police do get brutal. There's no doubt about it. They can be a brutal bunch of people, and they do, in fact, flagrantly violate laws themselves when it behooves them. I'm not talking about anything serious. I mean, in the case of my in-laws, it was they all drove drunk, and when they got pulled over, they just had to flash their badge and nothing. They were all knew each other. I mean, really, that kind of thing. At the same time, I would say that my father-in-law, who never took his gun out in 25 years on the LAPD, is one of the finest people I've ever known. So I understand the predicaments of the police. So I call the police. I ask them what would happen, and the answer is somewhat surprising, and let's listen to what the police say, and then I'll comment again.
If your call is an emergency, hang up and dial 911 now.
Si usted tiene una emergencia, cuelgue y llame al 911 ahora. Usted ha llegado al número de no emergencia de seguridad pública. Para asistencia en español, oprima 1 ahora.
You've reached the Public Safety Non-Emergency Response Line. Please listen carefully to the following options. You can hear these options again. If your call is regarding a fire or medical matter, press 1. If your call is regarding a non-emergency law enforcement situation that occurred within the city of Portland or for Portland information, press 2. Please listen closely as our options change frequently. You can hear these options again. If you have a situation that requires a police response to your location or you need to file a police report, press 1. If you need general police information or contact numbers, press 2. For general City of Portland information, press 3. For please log on to our website at www.portlandpolice.org. If you do not have access to a computer, please choose one of the following options. If you are calling from North or Northeast Portland, press 1. If you are calling from Southeast or East Portland, press 2. If you are calling from Southwest or Northwest Portland, press 3.
One moment, please.
I have a theoretical question.
Police Officer Anderson.
Good afternoon, sir. I have a theoretical question I'd like to ask, please.
Okay.
If somebody was texting me over and over and I told them to stop texting me and they won't, what's the next course of action?
Well, I would think, though I don't know, you'd have to check with your cell provider. It seems like there'd be a way to block that particular phone number.
Hmm.
Not sure, but I would think that's the case. And I mean, if it's a persistent chronic situation, you could technically file a report with the name of telephonic harassment upon it,
Hmm. Okay.
and keep track of things that way, and perhaps even convince the district attorney to charge that person with that crime.
All right. Well, that's the answer. That's what I needed, was an answer to that. Thank you very much.
Okay, sure.
Bye. So you heard the gentleman. He said a normal human being, takes normal precautions. You block the number. I mean, if you have a cell phone, an iPhone, you can block them right on the iPhone, because Lane was never sending anonymous calls, or he was never trying to evade who he was. He was sending them. He was sending messages from his phone identifying himself. So they knew who he was. Now, every cell phone provider I know has a system where you can block calls, okay? Okay, failing all of that, you can go file a report. As he said, you can go file a report, and maybe you can convince the district attorney to do something about it. However, he never mentioned that we'll go out and arrest the suspect, book him in jail, and charge him with telephonic harassment. He never said that, did he? He said you can file a report, take charge of that, and then see if the district attorney will do something. He never mentioned we can arrest the suspect, throw him in jail, and charge him with telephonic harassment for you. So there you have it, folks. Now, how much more evidence do you need that TriMet pulled strings here? Your normal citizen would never get that kind of response. The officer I just questioned never mentioned we'd arrest the person. So Roberta Allstedt made no attempts to stop him from calling. She didn't block his number. She didn't file a restraining order. In other words, they were just waiting for this to happen so they could do this to him. It was a setup, and I said it in my previous video. They did nothing to stop it, and it was never clear to me or Lane exactly what that conversation where he was warned not to, I don't remember. He would have told me if there was some kind of, you don't call her anymore or else you're facing serious charges. That was never talked, never said. The entire case is a setup. From where I sit, I see an abuse of government power and a complete setup by TriMet officials. Having lived with these people for years, this is exactly what they're capable of doing. This is not a pipe dream. This is what they do, folks. Is Lane the criminal, or are TriMet people the criminals? You decide.